From the heart comes a warning filled with bloody good cheer. Remember what happened as the 14th draws near. Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are taking a look at the NECA My Bloody Valentine Ultimate Minor Figure. My Bloody Valentine has been one of my favorite slasher movies for quite a while now. If you remember, a few years back on the channel, I actually went and put together the complete mask and accessory sets from both the original movie and the remake, and then took it so far to actually build a life-size mannequin of the original version of the miner, using as much of the same make and model mining equipment that was used in the original film to complete that set. So I'd like to think going into this review, I am somewhat of an authority on what the miner is supposed to look like, what everything on him is supposed to be, and this is really the second miner figure we've gotten from NECA. And the first version I actually started filming a review on. It was the 8-inch cloth version of the miner. And I kind of just went down a rabbit hole of getting annoyed at certain details on that thing. And then I had a broken leg on mine and all this crap. So I never ended up completing that review just because I got frustrated with it. But a lot of the same details that were there in that figure are here on this more standard action figure. So I get a chance to make those same comparisons. So let's not waste any more time. Let's cook up an egg on the radiator of our car, boil some disgusting looking hot dogs, grow a Monterey Jack style mustache, and head down for the party in the mines and check out this figure. Before we get too far into the review, I am going to say I am used to calling this character Harry Warden. I know, really, Harry Warden's in a very small bit of the movie, but if I swap out between calling him the Miner and Harry, it means the same thing to me. In my head, throughout the movie, they think it's Harry in the Miner costume, or they fear it's the return of Harry, so Harry works for me. So our first accessory is, of course, his trusty pickaxe. Came out really nice, has a nice wood grain handle to it. It has the accurate style head where it kind of has like the sheath that goes over the top of it, and then the actual pickaxe double-ended piece at the top. There's some nice weathering on the metal there as well. I think they did a really good job painting this and weathering it all up, and it fits pretty easily in his hand, which is good because we only get the one set of hands with him. We also get the nail gun. This also, they did a really nice job on. It looks very similar to the real thing. They have a little silver part in the middle where the break in the barrel is where you'd insert the new nails. It has the square end to it. If you look down the barrel of it, you can see there is like the hole in the middle where the nail would come out of. There's some decent detail there on the handle. Similar detail going on the opposite side. And I don't know if the detail is going to show up on camera, but the handle itself actually says NECA, like it's stamped into the handle, which is nice because the brand name of the actual nail gun is stamped on there, so it actually kind of mimics that without having to get copyright permission from the brand that made the real one. We also get his knife, and this is not as good as the other accessories. Unless I'm completely off base with what I've heard is the real knife, this has a handle that looks nothing like the real thing. Actually, I don't think any of it looks like the real thing. I don't know the model name offhand, but I believe what was used was a Japanese scuba knife. So it actually had like a wrapped leather handle. The end of it was kind of like this hex nut, and the back of the blade itself is serrated. So this checks none of those boxes. In terms of just being a generic accessory, it is nice. There's a nice silver on the blade. The handle's a nice black. Flip it over to the other side. Pretty much the same idea going on there. Just not really what it's supposed to be. The last accessory is the chocolate box. This came out pretty good. It's got the little roses up on the top and the ribbon. There's that pattern going over the whole top of it. On the edge, it's more of just a plain red color. And the bottom picks up that pattern again. And then, of course, that lid comes off. And we have the heart inside of the box with a nice splattering of blood. I don't know how it's going to come out on screen. On my monitor here, the blood looks very purple. But to the naked eye, it is more what you'd expect for a blood color. Maybe a bit on the lighter side than it should be, but it is. And then now that mine is collapsed and everything fell down, I can finish saying that it does look like it is a correct color for blood, more or less. So if it's showing up weird on camera, never mind that, it's fine. As for Harry himself, overall they did a really good job of capturing the look of the costume, but there are some glaring errors here to me. And like I said, it's just because I've invested so much time and money and energy into building my own life-size miner that these things stick out to me a lot, where most people probably may not give a crap at all. Honestly, a lot of the problems I have are on the head of the figure. So starting at the top, we have his helmet. This is the MSA Comfo cap. It also has his Kohler wheat lamp there in the center. They did a really cool job painting up the Kohler wheat lamp so it does look like it's illuminated. I like that they did this kind of yellow aura around a white center. Really makes it look illuminated. Then you see the red of the lamp itself sticking out there. You turn them a little bit, you can see kind of the bulk of the lamp there, which is more or less accurate to what's in the film. The details on the Comfo cap look pretty nice. They have the kind of cross pattern in the middle. The rivets are on the outside of it. If you spin around to the back, it has a little loop back there that the cord from the Kohler wheat lamp will pass through, so that's nice and accurate. There actually is the wire back there, even though it feels very brittle with how thin and tiny it is. They scaled it pretty darn well. My big problem is what we're seeing right behind the Kohler wheat lamp itself, that nice bright silver patch on the Comfo cap. That shouldn't be there. The Comfo cap is 100% black. It does have this little metal loop in the front of it that the Kohler wheat lamp plugs into, but it's all the same color as the rest of the helmet. So having this big bright spot of chrome there kind of annoys me. Going down to the face of the figure, this is trying to recreate the elusive MSA rebreather. It's not a gas mask, it is a rebreather that he wears in that film. Looking at it straight on from the front, I think they did an okay job. The eyes are a little misshapen and maybe a little too close together. It does have that kind of filter there in the front with a nice blood splatter on it. It also has the metal part leading into the breathing tube. That looks pretty good. If we turn it to the side, they even captured the little detail on the edge of it where there's almost like a pressure relief button. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but there is a little button like that sticks out. This little piece sticking out to the side, if I'm going to be real nitpicky, I think it should be a little closer into the rest of the mask. Nothing crazy here. It is just off of dead center because in normal use, the MSA rebreather would be turned to the side with this part that's sticking out on the side for us would be pointing forward and then two tubes would be coming off of it. But for the movie, they cut off what would be, I guess, the left tube and then they turn the assembly 90 degrees. Another bit of annoyance with the silver on this guy is here they have kind of the disc, the filter in the front, and the entire assembly for the breathing tube as one big shiny metal piece. This should be two separate pieces, so there should be some black rubber separating the two. And then quite honestly, there's just way too much of the mask going underneath this. So you can see it kind of comes down to a little bit of a chin there. That is way off of where it should be. Also, you can see the straps connecting to the side. The connectors look really good. And the ones on top are more or less correct. Again, there should be less material on the side there. The whole face should kind of be wider. And these clips should really be connecting almost right next to the eyes. But then the lower ones are way lower than they should be. They should be connecting almost on the underside of the eyes directly. And honestly have more of a downturned angle than this. So this is just kind of all messed up anatomy of the mask. And I know this is really nitpicky. But hey, seeing as I have some of the real stuff, I feel if anybody's going to make these nitpicks, it should be me. Going down to the rest of the body, the main body seems to just be a reused H2 Michael Myers. I think this works okay. The Miner did have his collar kind of popped up in some scenes. The coveralls are fairly generic. I know people have identified the make and model used on screen, but I know a lot of people just use generic red caps or something instead. So these are nondescript enough to work. One of the new parts we do have are these big gloves coming up on the sides of his arms. These look pretty good. They have a nice kind of dusty black color to them. There's some nice wrinkles going on in the hands as well, emulating that leather glove look. And then his right hand kind of has a pseudo trigger finger on it for using the nail gun, but it's closed enough that I think it works with his pickaxe and everything. On the back of the figure, nothing too surprising, just a lot of the same kind of wrinkles. He has the back pockets, all that. And I guess I'll start here because he's already turned around. We do see he has the two belts on there. So brown leather belts. There's a nice kind of dirty quality to them. The top one's a little tighter, the bottom one's a little looser. Bring it around to the front, you can see the top one kind of looks more normal how it's buckled, and the lower one loops the excess belt around and kind of shoves it back up and over the other part of the belt. And then we have these sections off to the side with separate connectors to hold his additional gear. So on one side we have his MSA Self-Rescuer. This overall I think looks pretty good. It's got a lot of the right details. It may be a little bit long looking. It seems like the bottom sticks out a little further than it should, but overall it looks good. The tube is connecting to it, and I do like that there is a splice in the middle of the tube because the stock one that comes with the rebreather isn't long enough to reach that far, so it did have to be spliced with another tube to reach the belt. And then on his other side, he has the battery pack for his Kohler wheat lamp. Nice detail here. It's got the silver top that's accurate. It's got the little windows on the side that are accurate. Those technically are glass, so they could have painted those some, light gray or something maybe, but overall it looks really good for what it is. And it does have that wire coming down, that skinny little wire coming down and connecting to it. Going down the legs of the figure, nothing really surprising for the most part, again, using that H2 sculpt. The boots are really nice. They have that kind of high top jungle boot look. The pants are tucked into them. You can see all the laces. They're nice and dirty with kind of a black base with some brown dry brushing over the top of it. Spinning him around to the back, more or less the same idea. And then he does have peg holes there on the bottom of his feet. Because this set's kind of awkward to move my hands around, I took the mask off independently of the figure. Technically, I think you could do this with the 8-inch cloth one, but I think you kind of had to pull some glue apart on that one. So this one it is made to come off. You can take the hose off of the mask, but you can't take the Kohler wheat lamp cable out. So really you're kind of stuck with him like holding the mask if you're going to have the mask off, or I just have it dangling off to the side. So we don't really get an axle head sculpt, but we do get these kind of frightened eyes underneath it, inside of the kind of balaclava. I do like they kind of gave it like a dusty look. And I think if you're not going to get actors' likenesses rights to put into something like this, that this is a pretty cool way to go about having a unmasked head without, going too crazy with it. And honestly, as much as I love this movie, I don't really feel like we needed a specific actor underneath this helmet anyway. So this is good enough for me. It's also a problem when I build up these sets and then I'm like, crap, how am I supposed to get my hands in here to show articulation? But I think we're okay. So the head is on a ball joint, so it can turn side to side, you could pivot side to side, and you can look a little bit up and a little bit down. It's kind of hard to really test the articulation of the head with the mask on, because the mask will slide a little bit, so it kind of moves the mask more than it moves the actual head sometimes. The arms can rotate a full 360 degrees. They can also go out to the side, not super far, honestly. And they can push it a little bit, but they still don't hit 90 degrees. I think they can come all the way in, but they're going to hit the stuff on his belt and be hindered. We do have a nice double-jointed elbow on here. Bends a little past 90 degrees. We can also rotate at that elbow. The hands will swivel, and then they'll hinge in and out. One thing I really don't like about this body is that you really lose any waist articulation. Like, you can kind of feel there's a waist articulation joint underneath the rubberized plastic, but, you really can't use it. So you're kind of stuck with a lot of stiff poses because you can't move that way. His legs will kick relatively far forward. They don't go back too far. We can kick out to the side pretty well. We can rotate at the upper leg. Got a single joint at the knee that bends about 90 degrees. We can also rotate at that joint. And then the foot will hinge pretty far down. A pretty decent amount up, honestly. That's more than most NECA figures. And then you get kind of an ankle pivot. It doesn't really swivel at all, but you get that ankle pivot on there to get new poses. For a size comparison, here's the Miner next to the figures that I just had next to me for my last review. So Michael Myers from Kills, and then Laurie Strode from H40. At first I was a little surprised to see Myers is taller, but his boots are a bit thicker than the Miner, so I think that's where we're really getting the height difference. Obviously this isn't the exact same coveralls. My H2 figure just wasn't handy, so I figured any Myers would really do for this comparison since they're kind of all the same. And I do like the height comparison with Laurie. Kind of makes me wish maybe in some random exclusive down the road, we'll get the opening scene Miner where it's the woman in the Miner's costume. I think it's very unlikely, but it would be kind of a funny exclusive. So we're back with more Randy Falk stand-in figure abuse. And, I don't know, maybe I just send him this and with a threatening note until they end up making us a Hollis figure from this movie. Can't be the only one that wants that, right? But yeah, I'm really happy we got the Miner in this style figure. I've been on the record of preferring these over the cloth figures to a considerable degree. And I hope that getting this means that maybe there's room to get stuff like Victor Crowley in this style, as opposed to just every other style that NECA wants to do. And yeah, I mean, it is kind of odd. I would not have thought we would have 3 My Bloody Valentine figures within the course of a couple years from NECA. It seems like one of those figures that people put on their wish list that they all knew never really was going to happen after the Cult Classics line ended. So yeah, I'm really surprised we got this figure at all in any form, but I'm really happy for this one specifically. I know I pointed out a lot of things that I dislike about it, but I think most people aren't going to care nearly as much as I do. And honestly, even with those items on here, I could still really appreciate the figure we got, and it's going to be a solid addition to my horror collection for sure. So let me know, what cult slasher character do you want created into a figure now that the gates seem to be a bit more open than they used to be? I'd honestly be surprised if we don't see an Art the Clown coming sometime soon. Not that that would be my first choice, but I feel like it's coming. But that'll be it for this one, and I'll see you all next time. Later.